once again to the bigger picture. It is August. August is a Women's Month in South Africa. On the 9th of August, we celebrate women. We celebrate the historic day of 1956, 9 August, where women organized a protest march to raise their grievances with the regime of the time, to fight against gender discrimination, inequality, to fight for freedom, and fight against oppressive laws and conventions of the time. But we didn't make this video to talk about the history. It is well documented. But we shooting this video to talk about the challenges that women are still faced with today, to reflect on their achievements, and to sponsor some of the ideas of what needs to be done or what can be done to advance the interest of women in 2022. Now, we know that every day when we open up our newspapers, tune on to radio stations, on social media, TV, current affairs, we hear of women being abused, women being beaten up, or being killed. And research shows that women are more likely to be attacked by people they know. This can be a partner, a spouse, a neighbor, or a relative. This is what is facing women in 2022, or what women have to grapple with in 2022. According to SAPS fourth quarter report, the total sexual assault cases went up by 14% in 2021-2022 financial year. This is compared to a year before. There's a huge lack of DNA test kits in some police stations. When women go to report cases of sexual assault, some police stations don't have DNA test kits, making it difficult for women to report or to register cases effectively. Police forensics are still faced with huge backlog, despite huge amounts of money that government has committed to deal with the backlog. This includes 250 million government has spent in this regard. But the backlog is just not moving. Last year, May, Minister Cele told Parliament that the forensic lab is sitting with about 208,000 cases, of which 82,000 of those cases are gender-based violence cases. In the financial year 2019-2020, there were 3,000 plus convictions for people who are convicted with murder or rape. And of those, only 770 were subjected to buccal DNA test for National Forensic DNA Database. This is just less than 25% of this convict class of convicts. I cannot stress enough the importance of this DNA database in the fight against crime against women and children. But now, you see, the challenge women are faced with are not only gender-based violence today. They're also struggling with issues of employment. According to International Labour Organization, the study that was conducted in 2017 and upgraded in 2022, there is still a massive gender gap between men and women when it comes to employment. And this study was corroborated by Statistics South Africa. Statistics reports that women have higher unemployment rates and higher poverty levels than men. Just before COVID-19 hit in 2020 first quarter, and unemployment in South Africa was just about 30%. At that time, unemployment rate amongst women was sitting at about 32% compared to 28% for men. This is in terms of official definition of unemployment. But when you look at expanded definition of unemployment, unemployment amongst women was sitting at about 43.4% compared to 36.5% for men. And black women are disproportionately affected by this situation because unemployment for black women is sitting at about 30%. (39.2% of female-headed households in South Africa do not have employed household member. And when you move further into rural areas, situation is not better for women. In fact, it's worse. Because women's rights to land is determined by things like their class and geographic location. Women in rural areas do not have the same rights as women in the urban areas. This includes lack of access to land rights. About 69% of women living in rural South Africa are said to be living in poverty. This is more than 2/3 of women living in rural South Africa live in poverty. The female-headed households, more so than men, are often prevented by finance from participating in programs such as land redistribution, agriculture development programs. International Center for Research on Women recently found that women who own or control assets are better positioned to improve their lives and cope with financial crisis. That's why it's so important for women to own or control assets, land in particular. They can use land or a house as a collateral to acquire funding which they can use to invest in other entrepreneurial ventures. Women who own land gains from benefits such as use of land and higher income. Because from that land, they can produce variety of agricultural products for commission, for profit. Women who control assets have bargaining power. 49% of women with no property have reported domestic violence. This compared to just 7% of women who controls property. Now, you see, the issue of owning property or assets for women is not only economic one, it is also social. It empowers women socially. That's why the issue of owning land is so important for women. However, not all is bad. We have made some strides as a nation. We have had some gains. And I think it's very important that we highlight those gains. In 1994, in our first parliament, only 27% of public representatives were women. In 2019, that number has jumped to 46%. This means that we have seen the closing down or the narrowing down of political gap between men and women. Women are much more represented today in our parliaments, in our legislatures, than they used to be when we first ushered democratic South Africa. We have seen land policies being developed and passed, policies such as reconstruction and development programs, the 2011 Green Paper on land reforms. All these policies recognizes women's rights to land. We recently saw the drafting of National Strategic Plan Against Gender-Based Violence, a document that advises government, business, civil society on how to deal with issues of gender-based violence collectively. We have seen government establishes courts that will deal with gender-based violent cases. It shows how important the issue of gender-based violence has become in our national discourse. But we've also seen the appointment of women in strategic and key positions in our government and in other areas. For instance, we now have the first female Auditor General in the form of Mr. Kani Maluleke. Very soon, we are going to have the very first Deputy Chief Justice in the form of Justice Maya. The province of KwaZulu-Natal has just elected the first female premier since the dawn of democracy, in the form of Ms. Dube Ncube. These are important milestones. These are important achievements for us as a nation. Today, as we speak, women can freely and safely make abortions without fear of persecution or stigma. It talks to control that women have over their bodies. This is in terms of legislation. The introduction of choice on termination of pregnancy, Act 92 of 1996, means that all women, irrespective of race, age, geographic location, socioeconomic background, can decide when to terminate if they feel termination is the best option for them. From a maternal mortality point of view, we have seen an improvement in that respect. We have seen maternal mortality decreasing from 105.9 per 100,000 live births in 2019 to just 88 in 2020. Women now have access to contraceptives. They can decide for themselves whether they want to have babies or not. It is no longer the decision that is left to their partners, their husbands, or to men. Women can control that now. Young girls have got access to sanitary towels, which is very important because it means girls can no longer miss important schooling days because they're on their periods. These are the achievements that we have made in as far as gender equity and equality are concerned. But there's still more that needs to be done. That's why we want to take the next 2 minutes or so proposing stuff that perhaps still needs to be done in order to improve or to better the lives of women in South Africa. Now, first, Mr. President needs to sign into law the Criminal Law Forensic Procedure Amendment Act 37 of 2013. This is a Forensic Procedure Act which forces convicted Schedule 8 offenders, this includes murderers and rapists, to submit the buccal DNA samples for the NFDD, the National Forensic DNA Database. First, before we go anywhere, this law has to be signed by the President, because it's a very important tool in our fight against gender-based crimes. We need political will to ensure effective implementations of policies around land, especially in as far as women in the rural area are concerned. Because policies such as Reconstruction and Development Program, the 2011 Green Paper on Land Reform, recognizes women's land rights. The only reason we're still talking about women not having access to land today is because those policies are not implemented effectively or not implemented at all. So we need political will for that to happen. Women need to be empowered. They need to be provided with mentorships, skills development, so that they can be able to compete on equal footing with men. Women need to be placed in positions of leadership, to be given space to make decisions, key decisions in society. That's why the decision by the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal to elect Ms. Dube Ncube as the premier of that province is highly commendable. Many more women need to be given a similar space. She need not to be the only woman. There has to be creation of decent work for women. Women need to be employed in decent work environment. There has to be investment in women businesses that are headed by women. There has to be an investment geared or directed in that direction. We need to ensure that women are equipped to participate fully in the economy. The mentoring program that I spoke of, skills development programs, all these things needs to be packaged together to ensure that women are assisted and encouraged to participate fully in the economy. There has to be funding available for centers responsible for women empowerment. And most importantly, we need to celebrate women who are trailblazing today. Women who are championing the cause for other women. Women like DJ Lamizi. She was recently reported in the media that she took 10 young women under her mentorship to teach them how to be DJs. She needs to be celebrated. We need to celebrate women like Busima Vuso, Tulima Donzela, Professor Pakeng, and many other women from different backgrounds who continue to defy the odds and break new grounds for other women to follow. We need to do this as a nation, because ours should be a society where men and women enjoy equal rights. A society that eliminates the system that oppresses and exploits women. We should create a system where women are supported, encouraged to do well in different roles. Because when women excel, we grow and improve as a society. And that is the bigger picture. And thank you for watching. If you like this video, would like to encourage you to subscribe, to like it, and to hit that bell notification icon.